Hi, everyone, and welcome to the See Also podcast, episode 1. This is going to be a short podcast explaining in depth a topic relating to my previous video. I got the name and idea out of that little section on Wikipedia articles, which just says See Also, and then it links you to topics which relate to the main article, but they don't really go in depth in those topics in that article, which is basically the structure of this podcast. Obviously, the last video was the Boards of Canada iceberg, so please watch that if you haven't, and especially watch it if you don't really know much about Boards of Canada, just to get a bit of background about the band. The topic of this particular podcast came from a video which was incredibly similar. Actually, it was on the exact same topic as mine, which came out just a few days later. It was a Boards of Canada iceberg video, and admittedly, they did go into a lot more depth. They basically combined 5 different icebergs created by different people into one big iceberg. And one of the topics was the secret weapon, which I had never heard before, and is what we're going to be going into depth on in this episode. So a bit of background about Boards of Canada's recording style. They love to use a mix of obviously modern, more advanced digital synthesizers, but also a lot of vintage and analog equipment, which definitely makes sense because one of their themes is, nostalgia, childhood, that kind of retro feeling. So yeah, it is definitely known what a lot of these vintage, retro, analog pieces of equipment are, but they've also gone on record on mentioning in interviews a secret weapon which they use to achieve a very unique sound, which is unique only to them. This is a probably piece of retro equipment, retro synthesizer, which they use, and ever since, fans of Boards of Canada have been kind of on the search to find what exactly this secret weapon actually is. And there's a couple of theories which I'm going to go over now. One big theory is the Yamaha CS80, although this thing has actually been seen in a few of Boards of Canada's live performances, which, if you watch my video, you might know that Boards of Canada haven't actually done that many live performances. They were mainly at Warp events and stuff, and little festivals dotted around the UK around the year 2000. But one person has actually witnessed the CS80 being used as part of their set. This theory doesn't really hold much weight, as I don't think, them using it in a live performance is going to be slightly different to whatever equipment they use when they're in the studio recording their music. If you watch my video, you might know that the version of songs such as Julian Candy are slightly different to the version which is actually released on their album. And also, it's kind of, if they're trying to keep it a secret, why would they use it as part of their live set, basically? Another synthesizer is the CS70M, also made by Yamaha, which has actually been confirmed by Warp Records as their trademark synth, which again, I kind of doubt this is the secret weapon, as it has been officially said that they use this. So if they're trying to keep it a secret, why would the record label state this is their trademark synthesizer which they use to achieve their particular unique sound? A more prominent theory as to what synth this could be is the Buchla or Buckler, I don't know how to pronounce that really, 700, which is a very rare synthesizer. We'll go into that in a bit. But this theory came about when a Reddit user linked a YouTube video to the Boards of Canada subreddit of somebody kind of testing out or showcasing the sound which is made by this synth. And the sound which this synthesizer produces is very similar to the sound which is featured on From One Source All Things Depend, which you might know is the secret bonus track which was included as part of the Japanese CD release of GeoGaddy. It plays over the sample of the children speaking, basically. It's a very similar sound. It sounds almost identical to that song. It's a very, it's that warm, fuzzy sound, kind of retro, vintage sound which is produced and it sounds identical to the one in the video. I'll link the video in the description. Another theory which I might just throw in here is that they use a reel-to-reel tape machine. Obviously this definitely makes sense, you know, it's a vintage, quite an old piece of equipment. It definitely can be used to play back an already recorded piece of music and make it sound more warm and give it an analog feel. It's definitely very niche, but again, I don't think it holds that much leverage, and I doubt it is their secret weapon, as it is quite a common, widely used piece of equipment. I mean, at least it definitely was at some point. And I feel as if they're trying to keep this as secret as possible, I think it's going to be a even more niche piece of equipment, which not a lot of people have heard of. We're going to go back to the Buchla 700 for a minute. Apparently only 12 of these, or less than 12 of these, were ever made, and apparently only 4 are still functional and actually are used. So in my opinion, that makes a lot of sense as to leading us onto the theory that the Buchla 700 is their secret weapon. But again, Boars of Canada are a very mysterious band. We probably will never know the answer to this question. What do you think? So there we go. That has been See Also episode 1, Boars of Canada's secret weapon. Not confirmed, but it's, you know, it's fun to have a little discussion about this. Tell me if you like this format. I might do some more in the future. And goodbye. Thank you for listening.